Hello friends and welcome to this special series on technical writing. Today we are studying about thesis statement. Thesis statement is the central argument of an essay. Therefore, it is necessary that it must be concise and well written. Generally, thesis must make an argument about a statement. It is essentially a plan of how you intend to develop your writing, espousing your argument. Determine what kind of paper you are writing. An analytical paper breaks down an issue or an idea into its component parts, evaluates the issue or idea, and presents this breakdown and evaluation to the audience. An expository, that is explanatory paper, explains something to the audience. An argumentative paper makes a claim about a topic and justifies this claim with specific evidence. The claim could be an opinion, a policy proposal, an evaluation, a cause and effect statement, or an interpretation. The goal of argumentative paper is to convince the audience that the claim is true and based on evidence provided. If you are writing a text that does not fall under these three categories, for example, a narrative, a thesis statement somewhere in the first paragraph would still be helpful to your reader. Now, in academic writing, thesis statement is a means to convey to the reader that whatever claim is being touted by the writer has been thoroughly looked into and there is evidence available to support it. In that respect, it differs from the opinion writing, in which more stress is given on the belief and thought process of a person, and the writer is merely presenting his perspective of the information. A thesis generally goes in detail about the question and explains it thoroughly and presents arguments to the reader about the importance of the question raised. A thesis statement is a concise sentence that contains the focus of your essay and tells your readers what essay is going to be about. It is not a compulsion to write a thesis statement, and many good writing works have been done without it, but the absence of a thesis statement may lead to lack of focus in writing. A thesis statement is a very specific argument that guides your paper. It generally has two main parts, namely a clearly identifiable topic or subject matter and a synopsis or summary of what you have to say about the topic. An effective thesis statement explains to your reader the case you are going to make and how you are going to make it. Your thesis also helps to keep you focused as writer and determine what information you do or don't need to include in your analysis. Writing in academic spheres often takes the form of persuasion. We have to convince people that you have an interesting, logical point of view on the subject you are talking about. In fact, persuasion is something essential to the field of academics, and the form of persuasion in education, often called academic argument, follows a predictable pattern in writing. After a brief introduction of your topic, you state your point of view on the topic directly and often in one sentence. This sentence is the thesis statement, and it serves as a summary of the argument you will make in the rest of your paper. Now let us talk about topic selection. There are many factors to be kept in mind while selecting a topic for making a thesis statement. Relative importance of the topic or the problem should be mulled on before starting the work. If it is a scientific problem, adequate backup in shape of infrastructure or laboratories, volunteers, etc. should be accounted for. Facilities such as library, supervising scholars, and time involved in doing writing work should be reckoned with extra care lest one might not be able to complete one's work in time. While it is clear that the thesis statement usually appears near the beginning of a paper, but it varies accordingly to the taste of writers. It can be the first sentence of an essay, but it more frequently starts with general statements, and as the first paragraph ends, it gradually comes around the point. The first paragraph serves as kind of a funnel opening to the essay, which draws and invites readers into the discussion, which is then focused by the thesis statement before the work of essay actually begins. You will discover that some writers will delay the articulation of the paper's focus, its thesis, until the very end of the paper. That is possible if it is clear to thoughtful readers throughout the paper what the business of the essay truly is. Frankly, it is not a good idea for beginning writers. Now, avoid announcing the thesis statement as if it were a thesis statement. In other words, avoid using phrases such as the purpose of this paper is etc. etc. or in this paper I will attempt to do etc. etc. Such phrases betray this paper to be the work of an amateur. It is better that you try to encapsulate the thesis statement in the supporting sentences and words, and in a general and easy way describe the thesis statement in a well constructed paragraph. We will try to make a thesis statement from general ideas and will design it from an abstract to specific approach. Let us say that your class focuses upon the problems posed by changes in the dietary habits of school children. You find that you are interested in the amount of sugar school-going students consume. You start out with a thesis statement with a general topic like this: sugar consumption. Now, this is not actually a thesis statement. Instead, it simply indicates a general subject. Furthermore, you are not sure how you are going to approach this topic. So the next step would be to narrow and focus the topic. Let us suppose that your research has given you ample proof that elementary school children are consuming far more sugar than is healthy. You can then change your thesis to the problem of excessive sugar consumption by elementary school children. This statement forms your subject, and it also focuses on one segment of the population, that is elementary school children. Furthermore, it raises a subject upon which might be disputed by a number of people, because while most people might agree that children consume more sugar than they used to, not everyone would agree on what should be done or who should do it. You should note that this statement is not a thesis statement because your reader doesn't know your conclusions on the topic. Now take a position on the topic by deciding that what you really want to say about the topic, like some measures should be taken to reduce the sugar consumption of the school-going children. The thesis statement can be revised like this: the food and beverages availability to school-going children should be closely scrutinized. This statement makes a position, but still it is a bit out of focus and vague. We now need to be more specific in our language. We need to make a more concrete statement like, Experts estimate that half of elementary school children consume 8 times the recommended daily allowance of sugar. This statement is clear and to the point, but it is a mere statistic. It merely reports instead of making an assertion. To make a thesis statement, make an assertion based on stated support. Something like this: because most of all urban Indian school children consume 8 times the recommended daily allowance of sugar, schools should take measures to replace the carbonated soda and sugar-based snacks with healthy alternatives. Notice how the thesis answers the question, what should be done to reduce sugar consumption by children and who should do it? When you started thinking about the paper, you may not have had a specific question in mind, but as you became more involved in the topic, your ideas became more specific. Your thesis changed to reflect your new insights. The thesis statement should remain flexible until the paper is actually finished. We should be prepared to rewrite the thesis statement if we discover new information in the process of writing our paper that ought to be included in the thesis statement. On the other hand, if we discover that our paper has done adequate work, but the thesis statement appears to include things that we haven't actually addressed, then we need to limit that thesis statement. If the thesis statement is something that we needed prior approval for, changing it might require the permission of instructor or thesis committee. But it is better to seek such permission than to write a paper that tries to do too much or that claims to do less than it actually accomplishes. You do not need a perfect thesis statement before you draft the rest of your paper. In fact, you will likely need to modify your thesis once you have a complete draft to make sure that your paper does what your thesis says it will. Changing and refining a thesis statement during the revision process is ultimately more important than having it exact and precise during the drafting process. Now you need to check whether the thesis really reflects your final argument. If your thesis statement does not accurately express your claim, your readers will be confused. The tricky part is that often in the course of writing a paper, our ideas change or we modify our opinions on the topic. This means that it is vitally important to continuously check that your thesis statement is the most accurate expression of your argument possible. When you are finished with a draft, revise your thesis so that the thesis statement remains a guiding force of the written material. Now some points to reckon for making an effective thesis statement. A strong thesis statement takes some sort of stand. It needs to make a strong statement and present supporting facts or testimonials in its support. A good thesis needs to show your conclusions about a subject. A strong thesis statement is a good effort as it justifies discussion and debate. The thesis should have specific points of the discussion so that meaningful dialogue or debate or reactions should take place. We should also keep in mind that a strong thesis statement expresses one main idea. If your thesis statement expresses more than one idea, then you might confuse your readers about the subject of your paper, or your ideas might become diluted and would not be able to make an impact. Now to summarize, we have discussed in detail about the concept of thesis writing, a very basic but important step in academic and technical writing. We have learned that a thesis generally goes in detail about the question and explains it thoroughly and presents arguments to the reader about the importance of the question raised. We have also learned that a thesis statement is a concise sentence that contains the focus of your essay and tells your reader what the essay is going to be about. A strong thesis statement takes some sort of stand. It needs to make a strong statement and present supporting facts or testimonials in its support. A good thesis needs to show your conclusions about a subject. A strong thesis statement is a good effort as it justifies discussion and debate. The thesis should have specific points of the discussion so that meaningful dialogue or debate or reactions should take place. We have discussed the various techniques of making the thesis statement precise and specific so that audience is able to understand what you are trying to convey. We have also discussed that thesis statement should act as a synopsis of your writing and should reflect the core ideas of the write-up. In case the scope of the write-up changes during the writing process, the thesis statement should also be changed and revised accordingly to accommodate the insertions or deletions. I hope that